Hello, hi, and bienvenue to Lost in Translation, where I explore with a guest a word that draw upon their experience, their life story, their culture, and their point of view so no one ever gets lost in translation. I'm Cynthia Bernard, and together, let's bridge gaps, embrace different cultures, and honor every single voice. Welcome to Lost in Translation, where we unlock the true meaning behind words, ensuring that no one ever gets lost along the way. Listening. Hope everyone's doing well on this mid-October 2023. Hi, I'm Cynthia, your host for Lost in Translation. Also one of the hosts of On a Water Break. On a Water Break. We're going to celebrate our first year anniversary of On a Water Break and the 50th episode next week, so let's stay tuned for that, or maybe this week. So I don't know when this episode is gonna air. But just a reminder, it's been a while that I haven't done this. I'm Cynthia. I'm from Canada. I speak mostly French, or at least that's what I'm the most comfortable in. And I will explore with a guest, anyone that wants to talk to me, a word. So no one gets lost along the way, because we all have different meanings and experiences. And today I'm having, for the second time, the chance and the honor of interviewing a very special person to me and to a lot of people I know, Laetitia Miron. Salut, Laetitia.
Hello.
Hi. She's right now very far, but so close from home for me. She's my local chouchou. I don't know what it is in English, but an international amazing performer and other thing for most, because a lot of people know you as the international person, but to me you're not, right? We're both from up close. And for people that are interested, Laetitia was supposed to be my first episode, but I'm sure that Laetitia is used to this with me. She was not that you're my first in a lot of things, but I kind of tried things with her and on her, and it failed because I was clicking my pen the entire time and pouring water. And so as much as the interview was interesting, it was a lot more of ASMR than content in the end. So we're almost, I don't know when that was done. Before the summer. So we're doing it again, and I'm happy, and hopefully you'll be a regular, and not just a regular. This can become our project, because I miss you, not just, and I think you'd be interesting to a lot of people. So hello, Laetitia. So do you want me to talk about you? Do you want to say a little bit who you are?
Do you want who I am as a person, as a color guard person?
Whatever you want. Like, usually there's a 32 count introduction where they do a Dr. Beat, but I won't have you live this because it's completely crazy.
Yeah, to put on I think I would panic.
Yeah, it's something. But yeah, where were you from? Where did you learn color guard? Where are you at now? And in the betweens.
I'm from Montreal, Canada. And I started color guard when I was about 11, with you. It was at my high school. I signed up because my mom strongly encouraged me to.
God love our mom. We love.
I wanted to be a cheerleader. I liked color guard better, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So I did color guard for the 5 years at my secondary school. I started doing drum corps during that period. So I started with a local drum corps, and local, they still compete.
Les Stentors, local to us, yeah.
Les Stentors. I ended up doing a bunch of different drum corps. I went through Hawthorne Caballero, Vanguard Cadets, Santa Clara Vanguard, Phantom Regiment, and ended up my last 2 years and aged out in 2022 with Boston Crusaders. In the winter, I marched with Les Èclipses, again, with you. and for 5 years. And then last year I was with the Pride of Cincinnati, and this year I'm very excited to be with Lexis Winterguard.
Mm-hmm. And so you were with Boston for just 2 summers? Was it the COVID summer and the last one?
Exactly.
I don't know why I thought you were there the year before, but yeah. Je sais pas pourquoi. And you were also are you still, how long is that leadership WGI program thing?
It is my last year as the WGI Future Leaders program. I was in the inaugural class.
So it's a 3-year program?
Yes, it's a 3-year program.
Okay. And what are you doing this year? Do you know?
So generally every year we work with people within WGI and with the board to present proposals and ideas that we think could improve WGI or the experience or the general community. So this year, actually on Monday, is our board meeting and to present our proposals. So hopefully we'll get some ideas out there and start working on it. And it's a lot of also workshopping and learning on the other side.
And not to do a plug, but do you know if they're still, because I know they were looking for...
They are still looking for WGI Con people and WGI Future Leaders Program people. That is the 2 things that I think they're looking for.
It's still open, yeah. So you can go on WGI.org and there's it's open to, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure there is, for color guard, winds, and percussion.
Yes, all 3 sections. And I don't believe there's an age limit. I think you have to be involved within a WGI unit and like in the past year at least. And you just have, typical application process, some recommendation letters and some essay questions. And honestly, it is worth applying and worth doing the program.
Yeah, that's really cool. So Laetitia is, like a good leader, not going to brag about it, but you are also on the leadership side of things right now, as far as like maybe your generation, because you were a guard captain, but I don't know how it was called at Boston.
I was flag captain.
Flag captain?
Yeah. On leadership.
On leadership.
The umbrella term.
She was captain for Les Èclipses also at the end of your career, 2, 3 last
My career.
But not career, but implication with until you moved and left us. No, until you. And yeah, but what's interesting, one of the things that are really interesting with Laetitia and what we're going to explore today is how I'm not going to say that it's not the importance that you went to so many drum corps and color guards and stuff. It's just how, or maybe you were, but since a very young age, you were on the pursuit to go as far as you could. And the organization or the staff they scared you, but you went for it every time. I never really remember a year that you were just in your house thinking about it and not actually planning on steps to do it. And now we are technically, yet again, you know more than I do because I'm so here. But technically, most of the groups in the US have their casts, right? So they're going to start their show. And it's when in the season that new members are coming in, new staff, new choreographers and stuff. So I wanted to go in depth maybe a little bit about this. And with your experience and your guidance, maybe help some people. So before we go into specific questions that I have for you, I always just ask the guest, if I tell you the word, what's the first thing that comes up to mind? So if I come and I tell you the word adapt, what's the first thing that comes up to mind? It can apply to color guard or not, but adapt.
I think when I think of adaptation, I think of it as a 2-way street, as in whether that's color guard or any community you become a part of, any place you start finding your home in. I think the person that is new tends to have to adapt. That is the most general term we think of when we think of adapting. But I think the environment around it has to adapt to the new person, to not only welcome them, but welcome what they have to bring to the group and welcome what new people can bring change and great things. And it's hard to adapt, but I think it brings us forward.
I think there's a part of the word that we may be, at least I'm going to talk to me about myself, but I'm almost scared of, because for me to adapt is hopefully not to mold myself to what is expected, but a little bit of it. I don't know if it's with you that I was talking about this, but how can we celebrate and enjoy everyone's unique point of view, artistry, and all of this. But in a sport where unison and synchronicity is so important, and doing everything the same from a person to another is evaluated, right? So it's going to be interesting to find maybe the comfort in adaptation without losing yourself, type of thing. But you're right. I think organizations should also adapt every year, and there's great organizations that actually do it. I'm going to think of AMP that usually doesn't choose their show before like way after tech season, like because they want to adapt the show to the cast they have, right? So yeah. So let's go with the first question. Can you share a memorable moment that you had in your color guard career where you felt like you had to adapt on the spot, like on the moment, maybe something that happened and you had to change?
I mean, there's obviously many moments that have happened because I have been in different places at different times in my life. But I think the most shocking to me at first was the language barrier. Because I think it was a barrier of many things, because also a cultural barrier, whether that's actual, country culture or color guard culture, because I had always been taught by the same people, and they were like family. They are like family, and like I was used to them communicating with them in French openly always. And I went to the US and it was just different, and it wasn't bad. It was just, first of all, I had to, adapt as in speak a completely different language now, which I wasn't that great at English at first. Like I was efficient, but I wasn't that fast, I guess. And I learned how to look around and adapt very fast.
Yeah.
But I think the barrier that was the most notable to me in that was adapting to different communication styles, even outside of language. How it is an open communication, yes, but you have to go through like the hierarchy of like going through leadership, which makes sense. But like I was in small groups, which there was
I get
no
what
leadership.
You're saying. Like you don't in the US, or maybe because you were in I don't want to say world-class group, but you don't go to your caption head right away, right? There's people you go through before.
If you have like an issue you really want to talk to them with, but generally like look around, ask someone next to you. If they can't answer, ask your captain, and that captain will, if necessary, bring it up to the caption head, unless they tell you that they will like. And it's something that was shocking to me at first, because even like in high school, we didn't have captains.
No.
So I had to come up to the staff and be like, hey, whatever, I hurt my pinky. I don't know, like anything. But it wasn't the case in bigger groups, which I later on was the person that was like, hey, this is how communication goes in this organization. Because when you have that big of a group, of course, like caption heads are close to their members and they want that link and everything, but they can't be like completely overwhelmed by like everything different members talking to them constantly when they do have a job to do.
It's interesting because the first thing that would come up to mind is the lingo, because it's just some of the, and I'd be interested to see other international or mother speaking other languages than French, because we know our language, right? But so there's words that are completely different, like numbers and then
counting in English.
Counting in English, like that sounds obvious, but it's whether you're a color guard or a baseball person, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the same thing, and you most of the time know the translation of it, or hopefully if you join the American Drum Corps color guard, but tosses and turns and triple and those little things that it seems so obvious for you guys, but it's not, because it's not the words that we use. And sometimes we use a word, but it means something, like we use the English word, but it means something else.
And like
or we use it in a different,
it's just very different and confusing, but yet not that different. So still more confusing.
C'est ça. Fait que, see, I don't know. It probably happens for Japanese and Netherlands people and all that, because it must happen. But do you have, and then and then you're saying more about like I don't want to say the hierarchy or communication, but the organizational side of things, like how did you manage to feel more comfortable with it or get to know, or is there tips or something maybe you hoped you've done before joining?
I think it's important that it, again, is up to you, but also not always up to you, but having people in a leadership position, whether that's your captains or the caption ed, that you know you can trust in that communication. I think that knowing I could go to a captain with an issue and they would be sure to either solve it, look into it, or bring it up to someone else who could help. When it seems kind of obvious to say, but sometimes captains are still members and they're still young sometimes. And sometimes they don't have the capacity to understand what is the issue, and they're going to learn eventually. But in that moment, they might just be like, well, I'm going to dismiss it. Because that is a problem I don't want to deal with. That is a problem I don't feel comfortable dealing with. But having those captains that I was able to go to and be like, hey, this is an issue. This is what I've been feeling. This is whatever. And knowing that they had the tools or were aware enough that if they didn't have the tools, they could go elsewhere to get them, I think is very important. But that is up to them. For my side, I mean, it's up to them. It's up to a lot of different factors. But for my side of things, I think it was, time definitely helped, because at first I was also young. Like, I started going to the US when I was like 15, and I was a very quiet person by nature. So it wasn't ever an issue as in I would directly speak to someone and just like, I don't know, disrupt the chain of command or whatever that's called. I would just tend to not say anything. If I had an issue, we're not going to say anything because I can't bring it up to the caption head. I don't know where I'm going to bring it up. So just being aware as a member that you do have those resources and your voice deserves to be heard. And you deserve to have the experience that you know, paid for, which is a wild concept. I reminded myself of it so many times. We are paying for this, and as much as we have responsibilities, we deserve an experience. Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, there's like two things of this. There's one, like your first was with it was cabs, right? Yeah. So that situation, and I think maybe for a lot of international people, and it's fun that we're going more on that side, because it's very exotic for a lot of people, because most drum corps people don't go through the international side of things, right? Because they're based in the US and they're performing there. But when an international person joins, they're either, from what I've seen, they're either taken under someone's wing, but maybe more of in a sense of, do you have food? Don't eat alone. Like the process of how we rehearse, who we talk to. I don't think it's something that they know that is different for us, because they don't know what, and then yet again, that applies to anyone, like someone that comes just from marching band and I've never drum corps. Like there are things that are different, like that your captains and your leaders cannot know what you don't know, cannot know the discomfort that you have, because they don't know your full-on experience that you have there. And on the other side, often we have that one or two or three, like it's not very rare, but sometimes we move in pack. So like you went to cabs because I was there and Joël was there, and because there was a mystery of people from Quebec going there, right? And there's almost a thought that because we come in a pack, like I taught you everything, and you knew before
I know everything.
You knew what I know. You know what I know because we come all together. But that's not true. It's not necessarily true. And they're to a certain point where you were not in my section. You were so far. Like they're so care about everyone. But I think it applies, like we're saying this as international people, but it applies, like I said, to anyone, because no one has. I'm thinking of Kevin Couture that told me like maybe 2 or 3 years ago how so many people of the world-class Blessed Sacrament that season came from marching band, didn't necessarily do Winterguard. So they didn't even know how to Some of them, not all of them, because I mean they're world class. But yeah, fold a tarp, open a tarp. Like it was unknown to them, right?
Disparities in knowledge, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just different experiences. But being aware of that will strengthen you as an organization, because even like don't take anything for granted, because even I think like last year, like folding the tarp, I had never fan folded a tarp the way we did. And they took the time to teach everybody exactly how it was going to be done and what the steps were and what the expectations were for us. Like you said, it's world class. Sometimes you expect people to have that experience. Some people don't though. Yeah. So some people do it differently. And I think it just says a lot about the expectations you can have of your members and what you can bring to them as well.
Now, something that can apply to everyone. You went from an organization to another, and there's a point where I trained you, not the first year, but I trained you since you started, right? And when you go into the US, but even from an organization to another, technique, the way of teaching, the way of learning choreography, from a choreographer to another, there are different teaching styles, the lingo changes and the technique changes. How do you think is the best way to approach adapting yourself to that, to new techniques, to new way of learning?
First of all, it's scary. Like I'm still jumping into another organization, and I'm still nervous. And I was at auditions or like at the first camp, and I was like, wow, I'm terrified. I don't know like how they choreograph things, how it works. And like, while I've heard great things about them, it's still scary because I don't know exactly what is going to happen. But I think acknowledging that this is going to be scary and that is okay, because most new experiences are, and it ends up turning fine most of the time. But also, yes, you're going to feel completely lost at first. Maybe if you jump from similar choreographers to like another, not as much, but you're going to feel lost. But that place between your comfort zone and what you're doing right now, that's the growth you're going to have. So feel lost, embrace it. Just accept that you might not succeed at exactly what is happening right now as fast as you wish you did, or as fast as some other people around you that have been here for years. But you are going to have that much more opportunity for growth, because you're going to learn so much more from so many different people.
Yeah. There's a saying that says growth hurts, and it may be a little harsh, but I think it's most of the time true. And now you're with Lexis. So you were with, and I don't want to put, maybe I was going to say something, but I'm going to change my wording. Maybe it's an assumption or that I have, or that people have, but it feels, or it looks like from Boston to Pride, it looks like philosophies are shared or similar, or techniques, or is it a complete assumption from the outside?
I would say it is an assumption that I also did have. Because what is factually true is that even last year, 50% of the membership at Pride had marched Boston at some point.
Okay.
So yes, technically there's that connection. But even like staff member wise, there's one, like our dance staff is the only person that is common between the two groups. And maybe technique, I feel like usually technique tends to be similar in similar areas, and the higher you go, the more similar to technique, unless you go to like very specific places. The philosophy is, I wouldn't say the opposite, because there's still, work ethic and all of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like Boston is very work hard, play hard. We would obviously rehearse like a lot, and we had access to this gym after hours, and we'd be there until hours of the morning on our own. Like the staff was not there. This was just the
staff
philosophy.
Would stop you.
The staff would be like, "Hey, do you want a burger? Can you go to bed now?" Like, So this was just the philosophy of how you're supposed to do things. That also meant that we like messed around a lot sometimes, because we if you're able to achieve what you need to achieve, then you have the time to do sometimes what might be stupid things, but in drum corps, it brings you so much joy. Yeah. Like have a water balloon fight, like, you know, the little things that will make you super happy, or like have a block off because like you're going to have fun. Pride obviously has that work ethic of like, you're going to work hard. We had access to like facilities because we slept at the place that we rehearsed, but we rehearsed, late. Let's say we end up at like 9:30 or something. We had until maybe 11:30, midnight, but then the lights would go out and everybody would have to be in bed. I mean, you could be wherever you want, just don't bother anyone. Yeah. They're expecting us to rehearse and do our thing, but yes, it's on your own time, but it's mostly on rehearsal time where you have a lot of like work on your own time or like stuff like that, because different parts and different shows mean that you're not going to get work with all the time. So that professionalism, like expectation, meant that like I am in no way saying Pride was not fun, but it's less work hard, play hard, and more like a smooth, like just work consistently, like in this professional manner, and you get to go to bed at like 12 and not maybe at like 3 a.m, which nobody ever forced anyone to go to bed at 3 a.m. Yeah. But it still was just, we'd be in the gym practicing, and that was, I think there is obviously common aspects. Many high achieving groups, no matter what class they are, will have, you know, a certain level of work ethic, this expectation of their members. But I think Boston and Pride, while there seems to be somehow a gateway, like a pipeline, are still different in their approaches.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, the producer from On a Water Break, the main show. And while you're enjoying this great bonus content from some amazing hosts, there's a whole other show happening with guests, news, and plenty of other fun things that you and your friends are talking about on a water break. So take a moment, go subscribe so that you can get your notifications every week for the main episode of On a Water Break. If you have news or know of somebody that would be a great guest, or maybe you would be a great guest, email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media at onawaterbreak. And now back to this fantastic bonus content.
And we'll see you at the show.
How did you feel about going to another organization also, like this year, starting from new maybe, and what are you comfortable, hopefully you're comfortable to say, that seems the most different for you with Lexis?
I think so. When I was deciding what to do, obviously, because this was a big question mark for like most of my summer, I was like, do I want to do color guard? Do I want to teach? Do I want to march? If I want to march, what are my options? And I ended up, deciding on Lexis for multiple reasons. I had heard great things about their movement program and stuff like that, but I was extremely nervous. And it's crazy because just the year before I was in a new organization, but in the winter, I was still used. I did 5 years in an organization, 5 years in another, and the two organization has very common overlap.
Yeah.
So I did 10 years with some very similar people.
Yeah. And then Èclipses and Les Èclipses then were pretty much not the same, but pretty much the same. Like
the staff was very similar.
The staff,
members
part of the members. Yeah.
And then I went to Pride, but Pride was still somehow known because, I said half the cast had marched Boston at some point. Maybe I hadn't marched maybe with all of them, but I had marched with like at least 10, 12, maybe 15 of them. So I wasn't jumping into complete unknown. And I had worked with the dance choreographer, the dance person at Pride, and I really enjoyed working with him. So I was like, I'm not jumping into this unknown. I'm obviously taking a big leap of faith and all of that, but it's while it was terrifying, it wasn't as scary as I feel like this year was. Going into auditions, I was unbearably stressed. And I hadn't been this stressed in a very long time. Like, I obviously was super nervous at auditions. Auditions make me nervous for multiple reasons. But I just didn't know. First of all, the first round of auditions, I didn't know who was going to be there.
Members?
Member-wise. Had no clue. I was going with this other person that I had never met before. We met at, like, that person lived in Indy, and we went together because it made sense. I didn't march with them. I didn't know them. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna go out there and try my best. And I don't know any of this staff. And this is terrifying. What if it goes terribly wrong? First of all, I showed up and there were like almost 10 people from Pride's cast last year.
Oh, wow.
That was crazy. We talked, but I guess we didn't talk about this. We were like, how was your day? But like, are you going to be at Lexis auditions this weekend? Was obviously not on the topic of conversation, I guess. So that made me feel a little better in that way, because I was like, okay, I'm not alone, which is a big thing. But then again, it would have been fine if I was alone. I did most of my drum corps auditions alone. Right? But having that safety net of like, okay, I won't have to like make completely new friends. Of course I want to make new friends, but I won't have to start from complete scratch was comforting, I guess. But the whole idea of the new staff to me, where there was not one like gateway person, like not one single person that I had worked with previously. So I was like, wow, this is going to be completely new. I could fall straight on my face. I could, not be what they want. I could just not fit the style whatsoever. I was super anxious about it. I went to auditions and it was great. I was stressed, as our auditions are stressful naturally, but the style I really appreciated. While it was different than like what I had experienced before, it was still something that, it's color guard in the end. When you like start getting all in your head and you're like, this is a different style, and it's true, it's going to change and that's going to have an impact. But you're still spinning a flag or a weapon, if that's, your thing. Dancing. It's technically the same pieces are just being assembled differently. So there was a moment of adaptation where I was like, okay, like, even like if I'm thinking just like dance, I was like, we're more like grounded, or we're more this, or like, but you take that notice and you like take a moment to be like, okay, I see this. You absorb it and you try your best to do it. And I guess it works out or it doesn't, but it did work out and I'm very grateful for it. Lexis, as a difference with Pride, I mean, we only had auditions, like 2 rounds of auditions and then a 1 weekend of rehearsal. So it's kind of hard to say exactly.
Because you're going to start to learn the show probably soon, right?
Yeah.
All right. Do you, like, how are you what's your headspace going to learning a new program? Because I know that learning the program at Pride was completely different than what we were doing at Les Èclipses. And maybe it's going to be different at Lexis, maybe not. And
I think it's still going to be different. I have no clue how the staging process, I think the staging process is one of the most interesting process, but very different everywhere. Like, I mean, at Les Èclipses, we were very like, first of all, we don't have that much space to go up.
No.
So we're very like close and we, do things organically. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't stage. I was a member. But at Pride, even when I was told and what happened the first weekends we staged, I was like, whoa. Michael Gaines comes in and he is like up in the area that is up in where we rehearse. And first of all, he knows everybody's names, which is
very foreign for me.
It was wild to me. I was like, we are 32 people. You teach many color guards, and we have not rehearsed yet with you, and you took the time to learn our names, which I think was really respectful and meaningful. But he or they, everyone works up there. I don't know what the magic happens. They like stage, but you're not like, you're a little
piece
a number in the puzzle.
Yeah.
You are not going to be in what your dot is. Like, I fully had a rifle in my hand when we were doing, and they like told us, they're like, don't get attached. And I was like, I am not. I don't want a rifle. But they stage with people, and then they put the performers into people's spots, which I think was a new concept to me. I hadn't experienced that before. Like, obviously people can switch spots and like something's changed. That's just color guard. But that specific approach was very different to me. I'm very excited to see how Lexis stages, because I'm curious. I like learning new things. I think Rick Sugel is coming in this weekend, so I'm very excited to get to learn from what we're going to have. But yeah.
So last question before we go into a break. Now, you're saying that adapting involves learning from other people and organizations and the other way around. Is there any people you've met that you would consider mentors, maybe a big word, but role model or examples for adapting and growth in general that cross your path? People that marked you and helped you to become a better adaptable person?
Adaptable person? That's a very good question. Because there's like, I see a lot of people in my life that I'm like, wow, you have had such an impact on me. Sometimes it's hard to detail how, but I think I would say that one of the people, our dance staff at Boston, I am not marching Boston anymore. Yeah. It's been 2 years.
But you're part of it forever type of thing,
yes,
right?
I'm an alumni. But Brady Sanders, the staff at Boston and also at Pride, was just, he was part of different organizations. I think a lot of the Pride staff also had been at Cavies, and that's where he was teaching before he taught at Boston. He is just he makes me want to be the teacher that he is, because he adapts himself to students that he has in front of him. He, like, seems like such a simple thing, but we're like choreographing a part of the show, and he's like, okay, we're a duet. My friend and I are just like heel stretch promenading, doing things. And he's like, which leg is better for you? Yeah. Like, that's the type of questions that he's going to ask always, to make sure that you're comfortable and that he's adapting. Yes, he's going to teach you things. Like, obviously that's what he's here for, but he's going to adapt his teaching and his style and himself to make sure that you get what you need and you are comfortable and you're able to achieve the best that you can, which I think is very important. And I think it also shows in, like, yes, the way that he teaches choreography, but also how he approaches people in life, like how he approaches students and treats them.
Really cool. Cool. Thank you. So we'll go for a little, I don't know how to say this, commercial promo, and we'll come back with you for a little bit more questions about adapting and adapt.
Hey, this is Christine Ream
and Chris Green.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include Winterguard, band, percussion, and other genres.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs.
Our consignment inventory has plenty of great looks for your color guard, drumline, and marching band.
Pay it forward. When you purchase consignment, you help other programs. Last year, we sold over 400 sets of consignments and returned over $125,000 in payments to our consigners for their sales.
Additionally, Guard Closet offers custom and pre-designed costumes, flags, floors, and formal wear, full or partial show writing, educational programming, and other services.
Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
The Guard Closet team is here to help you get everything you want and need for your season. Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Hi, welcome back. So let's go with like we said, the power through of the last questions, going with, yet again, the word adapt. We talked about adaptation in a gym and a teaching situation, choreography and all of that. How do you think it reflects within the adaptation and how to adapt within the culture and our community and Color Guard in general? Like, do you think things change or adapt?
I mean, things are constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as a community want to be open to change. We have that willingness. However, does it actually happen? Not always. I think we want to innovate. It's written in the judging sheets, and we are all about innovation and all of that, and it's very important to us. But sometimes innovating can look different than what we think. And adapting would maybe adapting to certain people coming in or certain other disciplines or other sports or what they can bring us could, help us grow, help us move forward if we adapt ourselves to that change. But sometimes we do require every single person that comes into this activity to adapt to this very specific activity. And I think it has its good sides because it is a very specific, community and family and all of that. And it creates this, sense of togetherness. But I think it can limit the amount of growth we can have as a group, as a community, because we set our boundaries for ourselves in that way.
I feel like this is like such a big, and we can go into depth a little bit later, but I think you're right. I think this generation, and even I'm saying not this, but in this space and time, I shouldn't talk about a generation, but in this space and time, the community is open to growth and change and movement, but to apply and to make, how can I say this? We're big on putting tools out right now. I feel like there's a lot of videos, there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of guides of conducts that never existed even 10 years ago or even before. There's inside investigation, and I'm going into this, but you're right, it's also into how we spin, how we move, how even how we judge. And I think we're very, very open on putting tools and to make sure that everything is better and within growth, but then to adapt from the result that those tests and those tools, I don't know how to.
I mean, I think an example of this can be like how they implemented Safe Sport. Mm-hmm. So the Olympics use Safe Sport. Now Color Guard and Winterguard, WGI and whatever, and DCI require Safe Sport as well. We have made that step because we brought something that another activity was showing us was good. And we brought, those tools, those investigations, those things. But sometimes those investigations are done and they, expose certain things that might not, some things obviously are exposed and immediately dealt with. Some things are exposed and we are questioning, is this something we really want to change? Is this a part of our culture? Is this a part of who we are? And should we really apply the changes that are necessary sometimes to maybe make this activity more welcoming or more, at times better for performers or even for staff members? But we have put the tools out there. There is whistleblower policies and all of that. What we do with those tools is still up in the air. Technically, there are guidelines for that still. Technically, if this happens, you should do this. If this happens, you should do this. But some gray areas, I think we were talking about it at some point during a future leaders meeting, but there are gray areas even in whistleblowers and in what is considered more emotional abuse. Like, what is considered emotional abuse in this sport, where this sport that is born from the military, that is incredibly regimented, to how far can you go until you, as a staff member or even as a member, go too far, put certain things out there that don't make the space or the community as safe and as welcoming as it could be. It's hard to determine that. And sometimes these investigations and these whistleblowers put out certain behaviors out there and change doesn't happen because we can't decide yet if this is something that is too far for us or not.
Why? Yeah, the obvious things seem obvious, and some groups, I mean, you know, the obvious things brings obvious recommendation,
yeah.
and but I think, but you know how I am. I'm very hopeful in everything, and I like to see the good thing. And you know, I think it's just where we are in time right now. Like it's the struggle that the community is going through right now. Is what do we do with it now? Yeah. So now that our Bible is in place, how do we not just implement, but how do we follow through? Right.
Yeah.
So follow through, people, but it's not easy. It's not easy whatsoever from every standpoint. I think from the people that are really not for it to the directors that want to implement but need to find the balance within it, to the members going through things that are worth being whistleblown, to the people that are going through things that are maybe not worth whistleblowing, but they're doing it because that's how they feel they can be heard. Like it's navigating through this, but I think it's very important to be talked about, and you're right. Now to finalize this, how would you recommend someone, if someone was hesitant to join a new guard or a different organization, or would you encourage them, and just how to embrace the adaptation and going forward with?
I think maybe the one piece of advice I would say is, obviously you can't not have expectations. You're going to have certain expectations for yourself, for them, for that organization. And you don't have to lower or make them higher, but just try and come with a blank slate. And everybody has their personal history and experiences and all of that. And that's what makes our community better. And that's what makes it interesting. But being that person that's going to be teachable, and that's going to be someone that can make its place in an organization. And yes, you're a blank slate. So I think blank slate is the wrong word. Blank is the wrong word. But an open mind, open to change on your side, will make other people in front of you open to change on their side. Because if you adapt to them and to the ways that are taught to you, and what you are told is the way it is, and sometimes that is the good way. That's things have to change at times. Sometimes they don't. And when you're taught the way that it is, you can be like, okay, I'm adapting to this, but this could be different. This is what I can bring to the table. And if you adapt to them, they're going to want to adapt to you. Because if you close that door, it's a two-way street. No one's going to want to adapt to you at all.
Well, thank you very much for this conversation. It's always nice to see each other and talk. And I think I was going to say I hope, but I'm really sure it's going to help a lot of people. And it gives you and I a lot of ideas, I think, for future subjects. So as we conclude, and I say thank you again, if people want to follow you and your journey, and now you're putting twirls out there. I saw your first,
I'm like, don't remind me, I'll delete it.
No. Should they try to follow you on Instagram? Is that
they can follow me on Instagram. I don't know, my name might be in the description of the podcast.
It's probably in the title.
Okay, well, my first name and last name all together, Laetitia Miron, because yes, I know that is hard to write. You can follow me. You can message me if you ever feel like it. I usually answer, unless it ends up in the weird place on Instagram where it's like trash things.
Is there a weird place? I don't even know about.
There's like an inbox. I go to my inbox and I get messages, or like people that I don't always know that message me sometimes, mostly like color guard people. And there's my regular inbox, and then you can go to it's not spam, but there's
people that you don't follow, type of thing?
People that you don't follow, and that you might not have as many like followers in common. So I guess it puts them in that category, and you can like go check. It's like invitations.
It happens on Messenger too, and I have like my
it's
real
like
life clients.
Is really, really, really people that I don't know.
No, I look like no, there's Outgo anyways. Like this week, I don't know why I went into my spam for some sort of reason. And I saw a conversation that it's like two of my, I won't say their names, but I'll let you know on the other side. It's friends, like friends. And they're talking about a party like, hey, we should do this. And I never respond. But I talk to the Outgo. Yeah. Sometimes so unless you become and you go to that weird area and hopefully you won't
answer. I usually do. People write to me sometimes about like drum corps and stuff, and I'm always happy to answer anything.
That's really cool. So, merci beaucoup, Laetitia. And hopefully this conversation inspired anyone else to come and join me. I want to talk to everyone, people I know and people I don't know. And whether you're a well-known person in this activity or simply someone who wants to have a meaningful conversation with me, this podcast, is all about giving everyone a chance to be heard because everyone has a voice. So you can reach us on a Water Break at all the social media, or me at Cynthia Bern on Instagram, or Cynthia Bernard on Facebook. And like Laetitia, unless you end up in some sort of space that we don't know exists, we will answer you. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Laetitia, and talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.